can come. Okay, I'm out of time, everybody. This is Dov Shur. Shavua Tov. I'll speak to you again Monday night. Bye.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. It's been a while since we last had Rabbi Pini Dunner. Always an excellent guest. His expertise in the academia, media, business, timeless wisdom of Judaism. He writes on current affairs, Bible. His father was a famous Jewish community activist in London. His grandfather, Rabbi Joseph Hirsch Dunner, was the last chief rabbi of East Prussia before World War II. Rabbi Pini Dunner graduated from Beis Medrash Gavoa. He got smicha from there. He's now the rabbi of Beverly Synagogue, non-Orthodox Jewish community, and he speaks out on different Jewish issues. In fact, one of the more popular program was the Lubliner Rebbe, who was the Rebbe who got lost from Judaism and came back. Anyway, Rabbi Dunner, thank you for joining us again. Wonderful to have you part of our show.
It's always wonderful to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me.
So I know you're speaking on lots of different issues. I know you've taken the Aguda Israel to task and Mizrachi to task over the World Zionist Organization election. Let's start with the Aguda. Why are you upset with the Aguda?
So I think that there are many voices in the Charedi world. And, one always, I come from that world, so I'm very familiar with it. One always likes to be broad brushed and say all Charedim are this or all Charedim are that. And it's interesting that in the last WZO election 5 years ago, there was a strong push within the Charedi community in the United States to vote for the Eretz HaKodesh slate, which is run by my good friend Rabbi Pesach Lerner. And the reasons for that was, there's a lot of money involved and there's a lot of Jewish activism involved. And there's absolutely no reason why that money, which comes, by the way, from, I don't know if anybody knows how this works, the KKL, which is the organization which owns a lot of property in Israel, property that was bought 100 years ago, has, as part of its arrangement with the Israeli government, that all stamp duty that's paid on the purchase property tax that's paid when any property exchanges hands in Israel, 20% of it goes to KKL. That's money that is paid by all kinds of people. Anybody who buys property, I bought property in Israel. You have an exchange tax. With the moment the property goes from one owner to the next owner, there is a tax that gets paid, and 20% of that goes to KKL. Now, where does that money go? It goes into the WZO and funds all kinds of things. If we allow the reform and conservative and Meretz and all the very left-wing and anti-Zionist, anti-Israel, I should say, organizations to use that money, they'll use it for things which are going to undermine the religious stability and the religious aspects of Eretz Yisrael, of the state of Israel. And therefore, it's important for the Charedim to be part of the discussion at the very least, but better still to be part of the arrangements to disperse that money, make sure that it goes to causes which are going to enable Eretz Yisrael to function and be stable. So 5 years ago, that's why many within the Aguda, particularly in the Zikan Hagadolim of America, Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, endorsed Eretz HaKodesh and said to people that they should vote. Now, of course, Charedim, as I've said, are not a monolith. And there are those who are very anti-Zionist and are very concerned that as part of the process of voting in the WZO election, you have to click in a box which says that you agree with something called the Jerusalem Program, which essentially means you're kind of considering the creation of the state of Israel as part of your Jewish identity or something like that. I don't have it in front of me. And they say that that's against the halacha or that's against our hashkafa or whatever it is that they say. And therefore, you mustn't vote in the WZO election. They have no such compunction, by the way, in the state of Israel to vote in elections for the Knesset, which is why, of course, there are Charedi parties in Knesset. But for some reason, what's allowed in Israel isn't allowed in the United States. What's interesting is that the Aguda issued this ruling without naming those within the Ma'atzis Gedolah Torah of America who had endorsed it. And that the reason I understand is, from the inside, is that there was quite a vociferous opposition to this ruling being publicized. And therefore, they decided, rather than put names of those who had agreed to do it and leaving off the names of those who hadn't agreed to do it, for them to come out with their own separate letter, they would issue it with a kind of power of signature, which just says the Me'etzes Gedolah HaTorah of America, which doesn't really tell you who within that group have endorsed this ruling against voting for the WZO election and who hasn't. But let me tell you, for example, Reb Elia Brodny, who does not want to go public against the Me'etzes, but is in the Me'etzes Gedolah HaTorah, feels that people should vote in the WZO election. Reb Elia Brodny is Rosh Hashiva of Mir in Flatbush. He's a very significant gadol in the United States. And of course, Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky and the entire Kamenetsky family have not withdrawn their support for Rabbi Lerner. And why should they? He's doing fantastic work. He's proven how fantastic it is to be involved with the WZO, making sure that the funds do not head in the direction of those who wish to undermine the Jewish fabric of Eretz Yisrael and of the Jewish state.
So will this action, this proclamation of Good Israel, hurt Rabbi Lerner and his Eretz HaKodesh movement?
I think it will double his votes, if you ask me, because I think that the people who weren't going to vote will say we're still not voting. The people who were on the fence will say, well, they don't have much respect for such a statement. There's real problems going on. Let me tell you, there's real problems going on in the Charedi world. The suicide rates are up. Drug taking is up. There's not a family which doesn't have kids who are going off the derech. There's abuse. I don't need to tell you because you've covered all of these things in your show dozens of times. The Charedi community has real problems. Where are the statements from Me'etzes Gedolah HaTorah about those problems, addressing real issues that are facing the Charedi community? This is not an issue that's facing the Haredi community. This is so marginal and so off topic, honestly. And I think that those who are sitting on the fence look at this statement, knowing what they know about the Haredi world from within it. They live in it. They know that this is a bunch of political nonsense and they will take absolutely no notice. So the only notice they'll take is that they will certainly cast their vote and make sure that Pesach Lerner gets as many votes as he should.
So why do you suppose that last time around there was no issue? And why this time around there's certainly
I think there was an issue.
But it wasn't publicized.
It wasn't publicized. I think, don't forget, that it was the beginning of COVID. And there were other very, very troubling things going on at that particular moment in time in the Haredi world. There was real devastation because of the people who were dying from COVID. And I just think they never got round to it, if you want my opinion. And I think this time round there was a much bigger push within the more extreme elements of the Haredi world to make the voice heard. It's very important, Eis Lasis Lashem, we've got to do this. We have to make sure that everybody knows it's a great Aveira to vote in the WZO election. So they had to come out, they have to have a big kinnis, they had to disturb the learning in BMG, and they had to interrupt the afternoon Seder so that everybody should hear the droshes about how you shouldn't vote in the WZO election.
Were there drushes in BMG in Lakewood?
Yes, absolutely. They've had the droshes in BMG, and it was a complete bittul zman and bittul Torah. They should never have done it.
Who gave the drushes at BMG?
Malkiel Kotler and Rabbi Aaron Feldman from Baltimore. There's a collection of them. Rabbi Bavachfeugel, I don't know if they were all there, particularly at that moment in time. I know that the whole Hanhola of BMG gave droshes about how dreadful it would be for any Ben Torah to vote in the WZO election. I don't think that anybody in the Beis HaMedrash in BMG knew what they were talking about, and I don't think anybody in the Beis HaMedrash in BMG was going to vote anyway in the WZO election.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was part of on their radar screen about the.
Yeah, I know, and they're probably wondering why is it so important to interrupt afternoon Seder for such nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Let's address the real issues in the frum world, in the Haredi world, and let's make sure that those issues are going to be tackled in a way that's going to resolve them. This is a non-issue, and if anything, they should be encouraging people to vote in the WZO election, as we encourage people to vote in the election for the Israeli parliament, for Knesset. It's important. We're Jews. This is an existing organization within the Jewish world. We're not endorsing Zionism. If you're an anti-Zionist, don't worry. By voting in WZO, you're not endorsing Zionism. What you're doing is standing up and saying, I'm part of the Jewish, the wider Jewish people. I want to make sure that my voice is also heard. And then I'm not going to be pushed off into the margins so that things happen within the Jewish world that are going to run counter to my hashkafa and what should be done in the Jewish world.
And of course, this Jerusalem Declaration is not new to this election. It always existed in WZO election.
Of course not. Of course it isn't. It was in the last election. It's been in every election. Ever since 1897, when the World Zionist Organization was started. I get it that people have great reservations about Zionism. And they have great reservations about the fact that the state of Israel is controlled by people who are not dedicated to Shmiras HaMitzvahs. They're not Shomer Torah mitzvahs. I totally understand. And by the way, they're right. That there's many people who are in charge of organizations and government bodies that are very prominent in the Jewish world that don't match our hashkafa and certainly are not up to the standards that we would expect of Jewish leadership. But by the way, it's never been different. King Herod built the second Beis Hamikdash. He remodeled the second Beis Hamikdash, and he was endorsed by the Sanhedrin. And the Gemara says, anybody who hasn't seen the Beis Hamikdash of Herod hasn't seen a beautiful building in their life. King Herod was the Romans said about King Herod, they said it's better to be King Herod's dog than to be a member of his family. He killed most of the members of his family. He was a power-hungry, possibly not even Jewish king, and nevertheless, he was the Jewish leader. I'm not suggesting that the leaders of the WZO kill members of their family. I don't want to make that implication or suggest that that's what they're doing, by the way, which makes them much better and easier to work with than it was to work with King Herod. Our job is to make sure that we prepare the way for Mashiach and that the Beis Hamikdash is built on Temple Mount, on Har HaBayis. In our days, we always say, B'mheira b'yameinu. We'll have to work with every Jew to make that happen. And that means that we'll have to vote for organizations or within organizations that perhaps we don't entirely endorse. That's the challenge that we have.
How much money are we talking about that will affect a group like Eretz HaKodesh or Mizrachi or any other groups? What kind of numbers can they expect to get from being successful in the World Zionist Organization election?
Annually, the WZO handles about $1 billion, about 4 billion shekel. Much of that is spent internally within Israel, but a lot of it goes to what's called Zionist or Jewish education projects outside of Israel. So, for example, Mizrachi gets a lot of money for Bnei Akiva, and OU gets a lot of money for NCSY. And Esha Torah gets a lot of money. That's very important. The WZO is giving money to Esha Torah, which is
what kind of numbers are we talking about? Are they getting millions of dollars? Is that?
Yes, millions, absolutely millions of dollars.
So NCSY and Mizrachi,
yes,
Esha Torah is getting millions of dollars in the World Zionist Organization.
Yes, absolutely, they are.
And last time at Eretz HaKodesh, when they championed the Charedi community to be involved, what kind of numbers did they get? Also
the same. You can ask Pesach Lerner. I'm sure that he's transparent about it. But, they get money for projects that teach about Eretz Yisrael. The yeshivas in America, when they've got as part of their curriculum, they teach about Eretz Yisrael. That money is funded by the WZO, and so it should be. Why shouldn't the yeshivas get money?
Absolutely,
it's Jewish money. It's not Zionist money. It's Jewish money.
Rabbi Pini Dunner is our guest. He's a rabbi of the Beverly Hills Synagogue. He's an educator. He writes extensively on Jewish affairs and topics. And as you can see, he speaks and writes with a passion. We're going to be right back.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll try to take some of your phone calls, 212-769-1925. He'll give equal time to Mizrachi when we come back. 212-769-1925, our number. You want to email us, zev@talklinenetwork.com. You can also WhatsApp us at 212-769-1925. Do you agree with Rabbi Dunner regarding the Charedim and as well as the Aguda regarding their stance on Zionism and your thoughts about the WZO election? I'm sure Rabbi Dunner will have something to say. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
NORPAC's 2025 mission to Washington on May 20th, a D.C. advocacy event to promote stronger U.S.-Israel relations directly with members of Congress and their staff in small groups. Join pro-Israel advocates from around the country to promote issues such as supporting American cooperation with Israel, fighting anti-Semitism on campus, and holding Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran accountable for their sponsorship of terrorism. Training and meals are included with registration. To register, or for more information, visit norpoc.net or call 201-788-5133. That's 201-788-5133.
Looking to reach a massive and engaged audience? Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish program since 1981, now has 2 million YouTube views and over 17 million impressions. Our vast listening audience, popular email blasts, geo-targeting, and digital broadcasting opportunities can help your business or organization reach its goals. Talkline's ad agency division can help you reach all segments of the Jewish community as well as general audiences. Call 212-769-1925 or email info@talklinenetwork.com to take advantage of Talkline's powerful platform today. That's 212-769-1925.
Hamish Catering and Takeout, your Pesach partner. Pesach is here. Don't stress. Hamish Catering and Takeout at 182 West Englewood Avenue in Teaneck has you covered. Now you can enjoy your favorite Hamish food for the holiday. From hearty soups to fresh salads, tender chicken, mouth-watering meats and fish dishes, delectable sides, elegant platters, and decadent desserts, Hamish is fully stocked to make your holiday feast unforgettable. Open even during Chol HaMoed. Visit us at 182 West Englewood Avenue or call 201-644-5100 for delivery to Westside, Bergen County, and Rockland. That's 201-644-5100. Online at hamishfood.com. Hamish Gourmet. Enjoy the best Pesach food to enhance your holiday. Order now. You'll be glad you did.
For over 50 years, Rabbi Chaim Pressman and Bet Shifra have been strengthening Jewish identity and community, and now they need your help to support those in need this Pesach. Bet Shifra is offering free Pesach lunches, dinners, and inspiring lectures every day of the holiday for 8 days, as well as free community Siddharim. No reservations necessary. Simply come by 2102 Avenue T in Brooklyn. That's 2102 Avenue T in Brooklyn to celebrate Pesach together. Additionally, free food packages will be available on Wednesday, April 9th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Bring your shopping carts and take what you need to make this holiday special. Rabbi Mendy Moroznik, along with the Rabbinical Alliance of America, urges you to support Bet Shifra's vital work. Your generosity can make a difference. To make a tax-deductible donation, contribute through your estate or will, or to volunteer, please call Rabbi Chaim Pressman at 718-449-1397. That's 718-449-1397. You can also donate online at betshifra.com. That's betshifra.com. Together, we can ensure everyone has a joyous Pesach. Dreaming of a college degree but don't have the time or the money? Say goodbye to massive tuition bills and wasted hours. Welcome to Advice Academy, where you can get quality education without stepping into a classroom. For over 10 years, we've been helping students like you achieve their dreams affordably and efficiently. Spend just about an hour a day, and in a short period of time, earn your liberal arts or business degree, all on your schedule. Whether you're a yeshiva or a seminary student, a busy parent, or a working professional, we've got you covered. No commuting, no hassle, just college without college. At Advice Academy, we believe in smart learning for less. Our budget-friendly degree planning makes education accessible, and our proven track record ensures you'll succeed. So why wait? Learn fast, pay less. Call 212-287-4826. That's 212-287-4826. Or visit us online at adviceacademy.com. That's EDVICE academy.com. Advice Academy. Empower your future today.
Hello. Suffering from foot pain that's dragging you down? This is Dr. Uriel Levy, your trusted board-certified podiatrist with over 3 decades of experience. I'm here to bring relief to your feet. With expertise in orthopedic and medical foot issues, I craft custom orthotics for 75 to 100 patients each week, meaning countless happy feet. Medicaid managed care, including Fidelis, United Healthcare, and Anthem, covers custom-made orthotics if you need them. Plus, I combine reflexology and Eastern medicine to bring a holistic approach to foot and lower extremity care. Think of me as a soul healer, not just a podiatrist. Whether it's plantar fasciitis, bunions, or everyday aches, don't let foot pain hold you back. Please visit me at my Borough Park office at 1453 44th Street. That's 1453 44th Street. or in Spring Valley at 11 Charles Lane. Call 347-386-5237. That's 347-386-5237. Or visit drsoulhealer.com. That's Dr. DrSolehealer.com to schedule your appointment today. Your feet will thank you. Don't let foot pain defeat you.
Hi, this is Zev Brenner. People always ask me to recommend a plumbing and construction expert, as it's not easy to find reliable help. I've been using Bliss Plumbing and Construction, and I found them to be prompt, reliable, and they do excellent work. Plus, Jay Bliss and his team are just great to work with, reasonable too. So whether it's a leaky faucet or a bigger project, give Jay a call at 516-288-6779. That's 516-288-6779. And with Pesach coming and you need to get your house in order, don't let repair or construction issues add to the stress and leave you drained. Call Bliss Plumbing and Construction, 516-288-6779. Again, that's 516-288-6779.
Are you looking to create extra income for yourself or for your family? Well, Talkline Network is looking for go-getters who are looking to generate more money by getting involved in the lucrative world of selling radio and TV time, as well as commercials and podcasts. You can work part-time or full-time. We pay high commissions for those that are motivated to sell radio and TV time. If you're interested, please contact us at 212-769-1925, extension 100, 212-769-1925, extension 100, or info@talklinenetwork.com. Ideal for students, for retirees, for housewives, anybody looking to generate extra income. Again, that's 212-769-1925, extension 100, or info@talklinenetwork.com.
This is Rabbi Velvel Butman inviting you to join us for Mashiach in the Air. Fill your week with joy and Jewish inspiration. Tune in every Motzei Shabbos, Saturday night at 10:30 p.m. on the Zev Brenner's Talkline Network. We're back on the air, bringing you inspirational insights, meaningful life lessons, and uplifting stories. Find us at WSNR 620 AM, WNEW 102.7 FM, and online at talklinenetwork.com. Mashiach in the air, enriching your life and your Motzei Shabbos with joy, motivation, and inspiration. To advertise or to be a partner, please contact us at chabadinspiration@gmail.com. Join us and be inspired.
Mashiach, Mashiach.
And you're listening to the Talkline Network here on WSNR 620 AM.
The preceding program is a paid advertisement. The opinions and views expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of AM 620 WSNR or its management.
This is AM 620 WSNR, Jersey City. Thank you for listening to this episode of
Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981. Please call us with your questions and comments at 212-769-1925. That's 212-769-1925. Or email us at zevbrenner@gmail.com.
And our guest is Rabbi Pini Dunner, the rabbi of the Beverly Hills Synagogue. His expertise is in academia, media, business, timeless wisdom of Judaism, written books. He's a fascinating guest, and we're looking at the World Zionist Organization, and he's taking both the Aguda and Mizrachi to task. Let's take a phone call. Let's go to Kew Garden Hills. Chesky in Kew Garden Hills, your question for Rabbi Dunner. Go ahead, Chesky.
Rabbi Dunner, I remember I was in yeshiva with you 35 years ago in America. Long time
wow.
And also my brother happens to be my learner's oldest son-in-law. But the point I just wanted to make about the WZO is we've always had big machlokas in between the more, more right-wing sect, people who are more anti-Zionist, or in many different areas. I think what's more insidious and different here is I listened to some of the speeches. The problem is they deny that there's even another side, which just isn't factually true. That's what's much worse in my eyes. Everybody has a right to their own shita. That's what they hold. but to deny what Shmuel Chaim Kanievsky said, that kind of stuff, when factually it's just not emet, that bothers me much more than the idea that they are actually on the other side.
Yeah, my opinion is don't judge a religion by its practitioners. And unfortunately,
but you would think by the upper echelon of the practitioners you'd be able to judge.
Well, unfortunately, time after time, we're not. They don't put their best foot forward. You're absolutely right. Reb Shlomo Kamenetsky was unequivocal last time round. Now he's a man in his late 90s, and we're not pushing him to give a statement again. But the statement he made.
Why not have him give a statement? Right. Let him reiterate the statement he made 5 years ago. Let him say, "I stick by my."
He has privately. If people do ask him, he says it. But he's an old man. He doesn't want to be bothered. He said what he had to say once. It still stands. And they're trying to undermine him and pretend that he hasn't said it. His family are very clear.
More than that, Rabbi Ira Feldman claimed on the speech that he spoke to the Gabbai who said that he's against it. My brother spoke to the Gabbai, Rabbi Shmuel's eldest son, and Rabbi Shmuel himself. They've all said that he's too old now, so he can't get involved, but he never ever retracted his original statement. He was originally for it, never ever said otherwise.
Absolutely.
And that's not what's being claimed by the anti-side. And it's one thing to admit that there are people against you, but you think that they're wrong. That's fine. That's always happened in Jewish life. But I don't recall a time where people say that the other ones never said it, never argued, never said it in the first place, when it's just not factually true. Yeah. That's what's much most bothersome, I think.
Anyway,
imagine if towards the end of the Satmar Rebbe's life, they would have come out with a statement to say that the Satmar Rebbe actually loved the state of Israel at the time when he was too old to deny it. I mean, it's complete and utter fabrication and nonsense.
Right.
And nobody should be taken in by it. And I have to tell you this: if there are people who are through conviction, I would say it's false conviction. But if it's their conviction that voting in the WZO is against halacha, don't vote. But don't tell people not to vote because Reb Shlomo Kamenetsky said that you shouldn't vote. And don't tell people not to vote.
That's what I'm referring to, right?
That's
Thank you so much.
Wrong. It's
Thank
plain
you
wrong.
for a good call. Thank you. Okay. So what's interesting is that you have 5 years ago, you didn't have that. So you're saying that his halakhic position still stands.
Absolutely. It's never changed. It's never changed. If you ask all the Gedolim in Eretz Yisrael, they all say you should vote in the WZO election. Every single one of them. It's just here in America, you have a kanufia of kanoishtika Rosh Yeshivas. I don't know how to refer to them. And the Rosh Yeshivas, they're not Poskim. The Posika said it. The Rosh Yeshivas, they've got a very strong feeling, a negative feeling towards Zionism and the WZO. Fair enough. Don't vote. No one's asking you to vote. And if all the people who are part of your group feel that they shouldn't vote either. But the vast majority of the Charedi world are not under the jurisdiction of these Rosh Yeshivas. And the Motzes Gedolah HaTorah hasn't even, named those within it who have endorsed this ridiculous ruling. And it makes absolutely no sense. There's no halachic grounds whatsoever to prevent people from voting in the WZO election. Now, I want to tell you, because I want to come on to the topic of the Mizrachi.
Right, because I want to give equal time. You don't like what the Aguda is doing. You sure don't like what the Mizrachi is doing. So why don't you like what the Mizrachi, the OU, the religious Zionists are doing?
With them, I'm very, very upset. And I went. If anyone follows me on X, they'll know that I released quite a heavy thread a couple of weeks ago. The point is this: the way the WZO works, it's called a parliament, but really the parliament only meets once every 5 years. It's 525 delegates. I'm going to give people too much information now, so I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. The way it works is not the parliament. The way it works is in the committees. And the committees are based on a coalition arrangement, but everybody is part of that coalition. That means there's 525 people in the parliament, and based on the division of how many seats each slate gets, they get seats on the committees, and it's the committees that make the decisions as to where the money should be spent. So you can imagine it's really important to be on those committees. For example, for Mizrachi to get money for Bnei Akiva and I don't want to pretend to you, I want to suggest to you that I'm against Bnei Akiva getting money. I think they should get money. But in order for them to get their money, they have to make sure they get the maximum number of seats on their slate and that they're on the right committees after that. Now, the problem is that 120, I think, of the seats in the WZO, it's actually called the World Zionist Congress, which is the parliament of the WZO, goes to members of Knesset. And they match up with parties that are elected from around the world. So the election or choosing people who are on slates is something that happens all over the world. In the United States, there's I can't remember the number, I think at 150 or whatever the number of seats are that are due to American delegates. That is an election that takes place every 5 years. If you go to the UK, where I come from originally, until this year, there's never been an election. It's a pre-arranged coalition. That means that Mizrachi gets together with all the other organizations in the UK who sit on the WZO, and they arrange how many seats each one of them should get. This time around, actually, they're having an election in the UK. But Switzerland has no election. Holland has no election. There's many countries around the world. Australia has no election. So therefore, it's a pre-arranged thing. Now, it's important, I think, in elections that there's some transparency as to how your vote is going to affect the final result. So if I were to tell you that before an election, there is an arrangement that the parties have come to, that notwithstanding how many seats each person has on the slate, they're going to get this number of seats on a committee, what's the point of having an election? I think in this country, in the United States, it would be illegal. It's called election tampering, because essentially what you're doing is deciding the results of the election before anyone has cast their vote. Well, that's exactly what Mizrachi did last November. I have the document. If anyone contacts me, they can contact me on X or via Facebook. I'm happy to send them a copy of a pre-election coalition agreement that was signed by a bunch of parties, including Mizrachi, in which Mizrachi basically locked up for themselves what they would get in after the election is over, notwithstanding the number of seats they had on their slate. Now, Eretz HaKodesh never signed, nor did Shas, nor in the end did Yair Lapid's party, which was going to sign. Now, the reason for this arrangement was an internal dispute, an argument between two factions within Likud. There's a faction within Likud, and this is so obscure. I'm getting to a level of obscure that your listeners probably think, how do you know all this? Okay.
Yeah, how do you know all this stuff? Yeah.
Okay, so, but this is it. You can look it up. It's all there. Everything's reported, just no one's interested. But there's huge amount of money at stake. So, of course, wherever there's money, there's crookery and there's villainy. And these are the villains. The villains are people who try and tie up as much money for themselves as they can in order to lock out anybody else. Now, you'd say, okay, Mizrachi, maybe they signed a coalition, and it's innocent. They signed it with good people. They didn't. They signed it with merits, with reform, with conservative, and with a rogue faction from the Likud party that was trying to take over World Likud. World Likud is aligned with the Zionist Organization of America. Mort Klein, I know you've had him on your show.
Many times, yeah.
He's a fantastic person. I'm on actually, a full disclosure, I'm on the ZOA slate. I have very little chances of getting elected because I'm number 21 on the slate. And the last time around, they got, I think, 10 or 11 seats. So I don't think I have a chance of gaining a place on the slate. It's not important. I believe that every single frum Jew who believes in Eretz Yisrael HaShlema, that Yehuda and Shomron and Aza and Golan and all these places are part of Eretz Yisrael, should vote for ZOA. That's what I think. That's my opinion. That's why I joined that slate. If you vote for Mizrachi, which is slate 5, then what you're voting for is people who are willing to sit in a coalition before an election with merits, with reform, and with conservative. It's there. It's black on white.
But the question, but anybody who votes in the World Zionist Organization or participates, you have all these groups a part of the World Zionist Organization election anyway, so they are together.
Okay,
right?
Later on.
what
After
they're
the
doing
election,
later on. But here's the question, though: is there an advantage by making this deal beforehand? It may be illegal in the United States. Obviously, it doesn't seem to be illegal in England, from what you're saying. So, are they securing more seats?
Let me explain. The arrangement in England was for the group, the number of seats. I think England gets 19 seats. Okay, so England made an arrangement in and of themselves not to have an election. So there's no election in the UK. And they decide among the different Zionist organizations how many, each one of them, how many seats from the 19 they should each get. And that's an arrangement they reached before. Is it fair? I doubt it. And we'll discover now how many seats each one of them actually gets. That's a very interesting question, which we'll only discover after the election is over. Their election is in June. Our one is finished on May 4th. Their election is in June.
So you're saying it's predetermined. No matter what the outcome of the votes are, the left-wing group reform.
So what they were trying to do was to lock up who was sitting on which committee and how much money each one of them was going to get even before the election. That's never been done before. It's never been done before. And the only reason they were doing it was because there was this rogue faction within Likud that was trying to do a reverse takeover of the WZO so that they can get their hands on $1 billion. It's a quite considerable sum of money. Do you know how many zeros there are in a billion? 9 zeros. It's a lot of zeros if it has a number before. Now, that money, everybody wants to get their hands on it. Mizrachi was willing to completely compromise their religious principles. So they're meant to be from Jews, right? They were completely ready to compromise those principles and sit with Meretz, sit with Reform, sit with Conservative, and give their money, for example, $16 million to the Reform movement for their educational programs before a vote was cast. Now, understand that after the election, if you're in a coalition arrangement, you have to make concessions. Why are you making concessions before an election? What gives you the right?
I don't have anybody from Mizrachi here, but I would dare say that probably they figured if they're going to make a deal pre-election, they're going to be guaranteed more seats. And I'm not talking about the kashrus.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right.
So they're looking for their interests of Mizrachi. They're not looking to endorse Mizrachi.
Well, excuse me, that for that they're going to betray the right wing. They're going to betray Eretz Yisrael Shlema. So they get more money for Bnei Akiva. What's going on? What's going on? How come that means that there won't be any money for projects beyond the green line? What are they doing? What are they doing?
Rabbi Pini, here's the thing, though. This practice should be banned completely.
Correct.
But as long as it's in place, do you blame the
was in place? This was a new arrangement which nobody knew about, which they didn't reveal. It got revealed afterwards by people who hadn't signed. So they'd been passed the document, they refused to sign. Ask a Pesach learner. He'll tell you. He was given the document and he said, of course I'm not signing such a thing. How could I? How could it? It's against halacha to sign such a thing. It's Geneva. Everybody, to vote in this election costs you $5. Everybody who's going to vote is going to pay $5 and their vote is meaningless. You're stealing money from people. How dare you ask people to vote for you if you're willing to sign a pre-election coalition arrangement? I've never heard something so crooked in my life.
Is this going to be taking place or is it because of the...
No, what happened is the rogue faction in Likud collapsed and the people within the Likud party told them they can't do it. And because Yair Lapid never signed, they never got the critical number of people to make this arrangement stick. And therefore, actually, it's going to be a post-election coalition. I'm not angry with them because it's happening. I'm angry with them because they were willing to do it. They revealed their hand. Now, if you want my opinion, I think it's political ineptitude matched with lack of principles. Okay, so I think that what they did was very, very stupid. Never side with a group of people that are going to be losers. That's got to be the most stupid thing you can do politically. That's what the Mizrachi did. I spoke at great length to Rabbi Doron Peretz, who's a very nice man. I know that he's done wonderful work. I told him on the phone after I spoke to him for more than an hour, I think about an hour and a half. And one of the things I said to him towards the end of the conversation is, stick to what you know and let me tell you what you don't know. Politics. Don't waste your time in politics because you made a massive error. You've basically alienated yourself from the people you need to be friendly with in order to be friendly with people who are not part of your team. They're not looking out for you. Meretz and Reform and Conservative are not looking out for Mizrachi. And the first moment they're going to stab them in the back. Their natural partners should be ZOA and Likud and Shas and Eretz HaKodesh. That's who their natural partners are. How do you sign with the opposition? On what grounds? A grubby backroom deal. Terrible, absolutely terrible, an absolute disgrace. I tell your listeners and those who are watching this online, do not vote for Slate 5. They do not have your best interests.
Hold on. You said there was political ineptitude, but the values of the Mizrachi and the OU and all the religious groups affiliated with Slate 5 are still valid. B'nai Akiva, still valid organization. So
yes.
why? So you so they just why shouldn't people vote for them? Because
I think that because they will betray the values that you stand for. There's not a person who votes for Slate 5 who doesn't believe in Eretz Yisrael HaShlema. The whole of the land of Israel belongs to us, and these people are willing to sell your heartfelt beliefs down the river for themselves. I don't know exactly what that will mean, but you know what? They're not to be trusted. They can't be trusted with your vote.
But you said they were naive. They made a mistake. So then didn't they? What did Rabbi Doron Peretz tell you? Didn't he tell you that they're not doing it, or what did he tell you when you're?
They're not doing it because he didn't want to do it. He wanted to do it. The reason they're not doing it is because the whole agreement was trashed. And that's, you know, if it would have been up to him, he'd be delighted. I'll give you an example. All the slates that are running for this election, on this WZO election, that didn't have a seat in the current WZO were automatically excluded. So Aish, for example, is very likely to get a seat, or 2 or 5. They were automatically excluded. What a chutzpah. How do you sign an arrangement where people who haven't had a vote cast for them already excluded off the committees that are going to grant them money? What gives you the right to do that? What gives you the right? Selfishly, are you working for Klal Yisrael, or are you just working for your little limited projects that you want to fund? Come on.
Now the OU is involved with Mizrachi.
We're all in this together.
OU is part of the slate and this other groups.
I agree. I told Rabbi Hauer. I've told Rabbi Schechter. You know, the one thing about me that you know, Zev, is I'm not shy to hold back when I think something is wrong. I've made my opinions very, very clear. I've had correspondence with Rav Rimon in Eretz Yisrael. I've with Rabbi Hauer, with Rabbi Schechter. They all know. Unfortunately, they're stuck. There's not much they can do. I don't think, if somebody wants to challenge me on this, I don't think Rabbi Hauer disagrees with me, but it's a bit too late for him to back out. So there he is. He's stuck in this slate. You know, if you want my opinion, the OU should have run their own slate. They shouldn't have run it with Mizrachi.
Well, they're controlling a lot of the slate, at least in the United States, for Mizrachi. They're in charge.
Okay, well.
I don't know what it is in the UK, but in the United States, the OU is the dominant partner here, as far as I can tell.
Okay, well, they should have run with Mort Klein's slate. That's much more appropriate for them.
Our guest is Rabbi Pini Dunner from Los Angeles. As you heard, he's not afraid to speak out. He's done that many times. He's a prolific writer, and he writes about academia, media, business, wisdom of Judaism, written a couple of books, Rabbi of the Beverly Synagogue. And we're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. And our final stretch coming up with Rabbi Pini Dunner. You can call us at 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925. You can email zev@talklinenetwork.com, or you can WhatsApp us at 212-769-1925. What do you think about the allegations that Rabbi Pini Dunner is making about Mizrachi? What do you think? 212-769-1925. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
For generations, we have celebrated Passover as a reminder that no one should live in bondage. This year, that message carries even greater significance. As some hostages return home, others remain captive in Gaza. For thousands of struggling families here in Israel, freedom still feels far away. 2.6 million Israelis live in poverty, and poverty is its own form of bondage, one that makes parents and children slaves to hunger and despair. This holiday, let's not just tell the story of freedom, let's make it real. Join Mayor Panim to feed Israel's impoverished. Your gift will provide Passover meals to families in need, and most of all, hope for the future. Donate now to Mayor Panim at charityInIsrael.org. That's charityInIsrael.org, or call 877-7-DONATE. That's 877-736-6283. Chag Sameach.
Just because it's Pesach doesn't mean you have to pass over your favorite foods. Meal Mart has you covered with a full line of mouth-watering kosher delights that make you feel right at home. From amazing deli classics like turkey, pastrami, and kolkats to a variety of kugels, including apple and everyone's favorite, yapchik. They even have matzo balls for the Gebrux crowd. If you're gluten-free, you'll love their nuggets, tenders, wings, and meatballs. Need meals on the go? Meal Mart makes it easy and delicious this Pesach. Echan Kosher V'Sameach from Meal Mart, bringing together happiness to your table.
NORPAC's 2025 mission to Washington on May 20th, a DC advocacy event to promote stronger U.S.-Israel relations directly with members of Congress and their staff in small groups. Join pro-Israel advocates from around the country to promote issues such as supporting American cooperation with Israel, fighting anti-Semitism on campus, and holding Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran accountable for their sponsorship of terrorism. Training and meals are included with registration. To register, or for more information, visit norpac.net or call 201-788-5133. That's 201-788-5133.
Most people don't have enough life insurance. How do you know if you have the right amount, the right type, the most cost-effective policy to protect your family when you need it the most? Hi, this is Ann Lowy, independent life insurance expert for over 35 years. I help my clients navigate all that. And because I'm independent, my loyalty is to you, the client, not the big insurance companies. I'll help you get the best deal out there. After all, you go to a doctor when you need medical advice. You go to a lawyer when you want legal advice. You go to a rabbi for halakhic advice. You should go to an insurance professional to get the right policy for you and your family. Call me and I'll help you figure it all out. Again, my loyalty is to you, my client. Phone 646-335-5519. 646-335-5519.
Hey, this is Alan Dershowitz. One of the most important Jewish institutions in the world today is Talkline with Zev Brenner. He is so smart and he is so innovative and he has so many interesting guests. I don't know what Yiddishkeit, I don't know what New York, I don't know what the world would do without Zev. So Zev, Yasher Koach, may you go from strength to strength and keep informing us and educating us and keep fighting for Jewish values.
Podcasts are everywhere, but cutting through the noise is tough. Did you know of the 5 million podcasts worldwide? Half of them only get 30 listeners? Want to reach a bigger audience? Think radio. Talkline Network gets you targeted listeners who are ready to engage with your message. Host your own show with us and supercharge your podcast's reach. We'll help you connect with the right audience. For a free consultation, call Talkline Network today at 212-769-1925, extension 100. That's 212-769-1925, or email zevbrenner@gmail.com. That's 212-769-1925, extension 100.
Want to expand your customer base and tap into a whole new world of loyal and dedicated consumers? Going kosher is easier than you think. The Kashrut Alliance of the Rabbinical Alliance of America offers cost-effective kosher certification that's respected worldwide. We'll guide you through the process, ensuring your business meets the highest kosher standards. With our certification, you'll attract a loyal community of kosher consumers, boost your reputation, and open doors to new markets. Whether you're a food company, hotel, or restaurant, we're here to help you make the transition smoothly and affordably. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Contact the Kashrut Alliance today and discover the benefits of kosher certification. For more information, email us at jewishadvantage@gmail.com. That's jewishadvantage@gmail.com. The Kashrut Alliance, your trusted path to kosher certification.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
Our guest, Rabbi Pini Dunner, is not afraid to speak out. He's the rabbi of the Beverly Hills Synagogue in Los Angeles, a prolific writer, and speaks on so many different topics. Have you gotten any blowback from Mizrachi, from the rank and file, from after your postings on X and other social media?
I think some of them were quite hurt that I would be so outspoken and so direct, and to get people not to vote. They say we're good people. Why would you tell people not to vote for us? I think that many people here in the United States, Mizrachi, just unaware of the shenanigans that were going on in the background. And when I explained it to them, they were very embarrassed about the fact that Rabbi Doron had decided to go for this arrangement. They were extremely upset with him, but what could they do? You know, they are lifelong Mizrachi people, and it's difficult for them to break with Mizrachi in Eretz Israel. I think that perhaps after the election we might see some changes in the leadership in Israel as a result of this. But in the meantime, the election is
anybody else in Mizrachi that are championing for changes, or is it just you?
I think there's a lot of push generally for changes to happen. Within the WZO itself, broadly speaking, and within the individual parties. Unfortunately, there's a lot, without going into the details, as you could imagine, when there's so much money, a lot of it is wasted on projects that perhaps are not worthy. And people get jobs and perhaps are not working quite as hard as they should. And they're using up valuable public funds for issues, topics, projects that they shouldn't. So I think that we will see, now that there's greater interest in the WZO than ever at any point in recent history, I think we may see some quite sweeping changes as to how things are run and how things work.
You might be throwing the WZO or regarding Mizrachi?
Mizrachi, WZO, I think anybody associated with this, I think now that the cat is out of the bag and people realize what's going on, things will change quite significantly. Mizrachi itself, they have a following. I'm not going to deny it. There's a lot of people in the United States whose affinity, whose affiliation is with Mizrachi, with religious Zionism. My feeling is that if you're a religious Zionist, you should vote. Why vote, for the monkey when you can vote for the organ grinder? And the fact is that Likud is the most dominant power, the most dominant party, the most dominant slate in the WZO. Vote for Likud. That's where the vote should go, and then you have a say. If you're part of the Likud, you'll have a say in where the money is spent. Why would you want to vote for a group that's likely to get less seats in this election and going to have less of a say, and certainly is going to be treated somewhat suspiciously by the Likud because they try to do something behind their backs, and the leader of the Likud right now, Yaakov Hagoel, who's also the head of the WZO, he's a smart man. He's certainly not going to trust Mizrachi going forward. As much as he's going to smile at them and make arrangements with them, he knows that they're not loyal.
But if they get enough votes in the Zionist election,
they will never have sufficient votes to be able to become a bigger party than Likud. Last time around, they had 80 seats, and those 80 seats, part of those seats were seats that are controlled by Mizrachi in Knesset, which they no longer, Smotrich wants to have nothing to do with Mizrachi in Israel, so they don't have a Knesset faction. They're struggling around the world. So, for example, in the UK, they're very likely to lose quite a number of seats out of those 19 to Eretz HaKodesh because there's an election. So that's not going to go very well for them. I think Eretz HaKodesh is going to make advances here as well. Eretz HaKodesh has a natural alliance with ZOA and with Likud. because that's where the Charedi parties are naturally aligned. By the way, Eretz HaKodesh is not like Degel Torah and Aguda in Israel. They're not, and Degel Torah and Aguda in Israel do not sit in the WZO for different reasons. But Eretz HaKodesh is essentially what I would call non-Zionist Haredim pro-Israel supporters. In other words, Haredim in United States have quite a different approach in terms of their attitude and their opinions of Israel. And they are, to the extent that one can be, they're very pro-Israel from a Haredi perspective. And I think that, I don't think it's a wasted vote to vote for Rabbi Lerner's Eretz HaKodesh. I think he's wonderful. I personally am on the slate of the ZOA. I think that's where people who are on the fence where they should vote for the ZOA.
ZOA is a wonderful organization. And
it's slate 15. They have a 100-year history here in the United States. They've always stood up for Israel's rights, even when it's not been popular within the mainstream organizations here in the United States. Mort Klein has been, as you know, passionate and outspoken and fantastic.
His father was a Satmar Chassid?
Yeah, of course I know the story. But he has been an unbelievable advocate for Israel and for people who live in Yehuda v'Shomron, and in all the topics that talk to our hearts. He has been fantastic, and his organization has been fantastic. So my opinion is vote slate 15.
Did you ever consider joining the Eretz HaKodesh slate, or prior to your learning about Mizrachi, did you consider joining the Mizrachi slate?
I was approached by both, and to Rabbi Lerner I said, I think that my Haredi credentials, or the lack of them,
Base Medrash Gavoa, you got smicha.
I know that, but I think anybody who reads I didn't want him to get criticized because I'm such an outspoken pro-Israel person. I want, he's got enough problems with the Metzes Gedola HaTorah. He doesn't need Pini Duna on his slate.
But that was before the Metzes. Your decision came before.
I knew that they were snapping at his heels, and that I remember from last time there was already trouble. I didn't know where that was going to go, and if I'm on his slate, I'm a distraction for him. I don't want that. And Mizrachi I knew about already, in November. So when they asked me to join earlier, I think in January they asked me to join, or December, I said no, I'm not interested. Thank you very much. They said why? I said I've got my own reasons. I didn't reveal them at that stage, and later on I came out publicly against the Mizrachi slate.
By the way, you mentioned Satmar Rebbe. They tried to change his legacy after he passed away. There is a story, which is a legend, and I assume to be true, is that Lyndon Johnson went to visit the Satmar Rebbe. And when he came to visit the Satmar Rebbe asked him what his position on Israel was, and he said he's for a strong Israel, and the Rebbe blessed him. So the Hasidim said afterwards, Rebbe, you're anti-Israel. Why are you endorsing LBJ and his pro-Israel position? And he says, whatever my opinion is, but when it comes to a non-Jew, the barometer would be his support for Israel.
Absolutely. I've heard that before, and I know that he was very against the Neturei Karta for taking public stances, aligning themselves with Palestinian terrorist organizations and rogue states who publicly hate Israel. He felt that was wrong. We have an internal debate within the Jewish world as to whether we want to be pro-Israel or anti-Israel. That's an internal debate. That has nothing to do with the outside world. When it comes to the outside world, we must stand in lockstep with each other, making sure that Israel gets all the support it needs from the non-Jewish organizations and governments that can help.
Absolutely. And the Neturei Karta, they seem to have grown stronger since October 7th. Unfortunately, you see more of them at these pro-Hamas demonstrations. In fact, sometimes the police get confused. They see Charedi people with beards and payas and rabbinical garb on one side, pro-Israel, and they see on the other side anti-Israel. They get confused, but they seem to be growing in numbers and intensity. And I think there should be a movement to ostracize them and excommunicate them from the Jewish world.
I think that they are already ostracized and hated. I think that they are, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care how religious they are, and they consider themselves to be, this is a form of Reform Judaism. If you're a Neturei Karta person, it's as if you are Reform. It's as if it's worse than Reform. You are completely warped. Anybody who's willing to stand alongside terrorists and declare publicly alongside those terrorists that they hate Israel and that Israel isn't Jewish and it's nothing to do with the Jewish faith, has no place within the Jewish faith, none whatsoever.
Absolutely. But I think they should be formally excommunicated because they still live in Jewish neighborhoods and they still use Jewish mikvahs and shuls and stores. I know after we had a show with Chaim Tzvi Freiman, who's a YU graduate, who became the Neturei Karta, he's the only one in the group that really spoke English. We had him on the show, and after the show was over, people didn't want to serve him in Borough Park and Flatbush in their stores and the mikvahs, and he took it as a badge of pride, but I think it was the right thing to do.
That's right. They, unfortunately, there's very few of them. They're a bunch of losers, and for them, any kind of negative attention, they consider to be a badge of notoriety, and they're excited about it. People hate us. That's amazing. We want to be hated more. Look at the attention we're getting. If you can't get positive attention, you look for negative attention. You know what they say with kids in school, kids who act up. They say it's because they're not getting enough positive attention. So they want negative attention because then they're getting attention. The Neturei Karta clearly are the adult version of that in the Jewish world.
Absolutely. But I will say that I did convert Rabbi Moshe Aryeh Friedman of Vienna, if you know who he was. He brought them, brought Neturei Karta to the Holocaust 9 conference in Tehran, and he had neo-Nazis at the kids' bar mitzvah. We had a couple of shows with him where I got him to renounce Hamas and Nazis and Arafat and etc., but he wouldn't denounce Tehran the second time around. We got him to denounce Neturei Karta and denounce Iran, and actually, you know, pre-proclaimed them as Zionists. I called the consul, got him into Israel. They shouldn't be arrested when he went there. So we did have at least one success story in converting one of them, one of their leaders, to be what I called Zionists. They didn't dispute that on the air with us. So interesting. But they're a dangerous group. There's no question about that.
They are definitely a thorn in the side of the Jewish people, and but we've always had our Erev Rav. And, you know, in every era of Jewish history, we've had those who have tried to undermine us from within. They are that group today. They're a disgrace. What makes it even worse is they're a bunch of clowns because they're not even serious people. There's not one serious person between them. And I think that they get a lot of attention because they look interesting. And it is interesting that religious Jews are so violently opposed to the existence of the state of Israel. That's why they get the attention that they get. Otherwise, they're not even worth, you know, the contents of my Kleenex.
Right, Penny Dunner, what's your next project going to be about, or book?
Well, I'm publishing a number of books at the moment. One of them is the memoirs of a rabbi who lived in London for 50 years. He was the rabbi of an area of London called Soho. It's in the West End. It's very close to Great Portland Street, to Oxford Street, to the British Museum. And he was the rabbi of a shul there, which originally was a shul of tailors and you know, not very wealthy people. And he was a rabbi there for many years. And he wrote memoirs. Now, the reason it's interesting is because he was originally from Slobodka, and he knew everybody from Slobodka. He writes the history of Lithuanian Jewry through his eyes and the eyes of his family. And then he writes what somebody who's been helping me calls the Tisha B'Av section of the book, because his tenure as rabbi in London was so bitter and so terrible and so sad. And he's very blunt and very open about his own feelings and about how he was mistreated and who the people were who mistreated him. It's going to be a fascinating work. And I've brought it out. It's quite a story how I obtained these memoirs. And he's a great rabbi. His name was Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch Ferber. He was an incredible, he was a mechaber of 20 Sfarim, one of the greatest darshonim of the 20th century. A beautiful Sfarim on the Parsha, on Yomim Tovim, on Tehillim, on everything. He wrote on absolutely everything. A fascinating person, but he led a very difficult life. And I'm publishing his memoirs with my footnotes.
Looking forward to it. When is that going to be out?
Later this year. One of hopefully 3 books that I'm publishing during the course of this year.
Terrific, Rabbi Pini Dunner. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Zev. You're always amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly Hills Synagogue, and who knows, you might be number 1 on the Mizrachi slate next time around.
You never know. You never know. Anything is possible.
Anyway, thank you for sharing that information with us tonight. Have a decent Pesach.
Batzlacha, Rabbi Kol Tov.
Rabbi Pini Dunner here on the Talkline Network. When we come back, Aliyah Hawila, the Lebanese Chassan, he's now